You know who storms the field? Kansas storms the field. Stay behind in the stands where you belong.
A panel of Louisiana sports experts giving you the hot takes all season long. Michael Cauble, Matt Moscona, and Shea Dixon. This is Sports Takeover.
Welcome into Sports Takeover, everyone. Matt Moscona of After Further Review, ESPN Radio. Shea Dixon of the Bengal Tiger on 3.com with all your recruiting news. And, of course, Michael Cauble wrapping up the LSU-Alabama game. A tough game to swallow, fellas, because this was a game that you felt like LSU had a chance to go in there, really make some noise with that offense. And they did for quite a while. Unfortunately, though, Alabama's offense also matching them stride for stride, and Jalen Milroe a big reason why. Alabama wins it kind of running away, taking control of the game after Jaden Daniels gets injured. And we're going to talk about all of these things. We're going to talk about the Tiger defense once again, a little inept, I guess is maybe the best way to describe it. Jaden Daniels getting injured. Where do the Tigers go from here with the quarterback position? And really, where do the Tigers go now that most of their goals are off the table? So it's going to be a good half hour. We're happy that you're joining us. Let's start, though, with the game, and really the player of the game once Jaden went out, Jalen Milroe, the Alabama quarterback. All week long going into this one, we knew that there were two ways he could beat you. He could beat you with the shot over the top, the deep ball that he hits so well off that play action, and he can beat you with his legs. Well, he certainly beat LSU with his legs in this one. A career high 167 yards, 155 yards rushing, I should say, 4 touchdowns, and that's never been done by an Alabama quarterback, 4 rushing touchdowns. I thought that was pretty interesting considering how good Alabama has been. But LSU made him look otherworldly. The Advocate with a great stat today. They were 11 of 14 on third down conversions, and Jalen had 66 rushing yards on third down alone. Fellas, is this coaching malpractice that LSU could not find some way, some person to step up and step into that role to clog the middle and take down Jalen Milroe?
Well, there's a lot of things that have been done this year against the LSU defense that have never been done before. So I'm not really surprised by it. I mean, we talked all week about Milroe's ability to hit the deep ball, so they decided to play coverage and left open running lanes. He's a good runner, and your defensive front wasn't good enough to stop him. Like, it's just the defense is bad, man. They're all-time terrible. I don't know what else to say after 9 games.
Halfway through the game, I felt like Andre Sam was a leading tackler, and so I started logging it. I was like, is the safety the leading tackler on this team? Because this is not good shape. I couldn't find the linebackers anywhere on Saturday night.
Look, it's what Matt said. If it wasn't Jalen Milroe, it was going to be somebody else. I went back and looked at it. In every single game this year, somebody from the opposition has had their best game of the season, whether it was a wide receiver, a quarterback, or a running back. That sums it up, right? Like, this is where you're at as a defense, to where if it's not the quarterback, it's a receiver going off. If it's not a receiver, it's a running back going off. They're just not a good defense. We didn't even need to get to November to know that. We knew that out of the gates.
We didn't. We thought they were taking strides, and obviously that's fool's gold against Auburn and Army. We thought they were making strides. They were getting better at the cornerback position. Zy Alexander had improved.
Army and Auburn.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean,
is last week's show on tape? Can we roll back the tape and talk about that exactly?
I don't think we can, but if you want to, you can reiterate what you said.
It was Auburn and Army. It was fool's gold to think you'd actually improved against 2 terrible offenses. And Florida's a terrible offense, so that'll be interesting to see this week.
See who goes off there. Graham Mertz going to have a career
potentially. He did against Vanderbilt and South Carolina. He had 2 amazing weeks against the 2 other worst defenses.
He's had good games in other games too.
All right, we're going to talk about Florida in a little bit, but this one was really about what LSU did not do on defense. And on Monday, a little Monday morning quarterbacking, if you will, Brian Kelly talked about what they should have done on the defensive coaching staff.
You're always looking at things that you can, do over. Hindsight is 20/20, right? I mean, could we have spied the quarterback? Absolutely. There were third down situations that, 3rd and long that clearly we felt like we wanted to be in, more coverage, and we felt like our unit pass rush could keep them in the pocket. That did not prove to be the case. I would say that was probably, the number one thing in terms of if we had to do some things coaching-wise differently, we probably would have employed a spy technique.
Guys, I know a lot of people that were upset yesterday about that comment. If you can figure it out after the fact, why can't you figure it out in the fact when you're making literally millions of dollars? Shea, your thoughts on Spygate afterwards?
That's what Matt said earlier, that they did spy against Jordan Travis in Florida State, and Jordan Travis threw it all over him. I guess you're balancing that line, right, of if we spy, is that quarterback going to be able to tear us apart? They had defensive woes in the backfield, but at some point you thought they would have turned to it again. Remember the Arkansas game a year ago, Harold Perkins was the MVP because he spied a backup quarterback who, coming out of high school, was the fastest player in the state of Texas. He was running 10 threes and, low 21s in the 200, and you knew you just had a guy running at quarterback. In this one, I think they feared Milroe was going to be able to beat them with the pass, and he went back to the Milroe that came into games last year off the bench of, well, this guy just looks like a running back. That's all he's doing. He's just running it all over him. Kudos to Alabama. Nice game plan.
Yeah, I just think it's absurd that people always think halftime adjustments are the answer and that there's this big rah-rah speech. But literally, if it is not working in the first half, adjust. And there were no adjustments either. And then that's the thing that
you were tied at halftime, and you were getting the ball.
Right, and is that the argument? Hey, we're
lead.
doing great, guys. Let's push it to overtime and win on a two-point conversion again, because that's really what it felt like.
You were getting the ball to start the second half. You scored. You had the lead. Your offense just needed to be perfect. I mean, that is the recipe for this team against any good team. Your defense is not capable of getting enough stops. Your offense has to be perfect. And they were for almost 3 full quarters, and then 2 plays got away from them.
Look, it was 28-28 with a minute left in the third quarter. Matt's right. Your offense has to be perfect. And even sometimes that's not good enough. They put up 650 yards and 49 points against Ole Miss, and they lost. Like, that's the loss that stings the most. It's not Bama.
Yes.
It's not opening against Florida State. It's going into Oxford and putting up guaranteed win numbers and losing.
Yeah, those numbers may not be seen again if what we fear could be the worst case scenario happens. Jaden Daniels injured in this ball of the game. Coach Kelly talked about why this play wasn't reviewed further.
We want to protect the quarterback, and certainly there was a penalty on the play. He sent it into the league office because we felt like it checked all the boxes.
Guys, I was there with Jaden on the sideline when he was getting checked out. It didn't seem like he was concussed to a point of no return. I think LSU's playing it safe. Brian Kelly obviously said they wouldn't practice yesterday. They don't practice anyway on Mondays. Today would be a day that he would be examined and then looked at going further. But if LSU has to turn to Garrett Nussmeier as their starting quarterback, how big of a dip is it for this offense?
Well, it's a dip considering Jaden Daniels has more total yards than any quarterback in the country. So you're going backwards no matter what, and you're running a different offense. Garrett doesn't run the football. So the running backs become more important, and obviously we've seen his downfield passing game is good. But how does he manage a game throughout? I think that's what we'll see on Saturday if Jaden can't go.
Coach Kelly talked about the importance of practice this week for Garrett Nussmeier.
Look, we'll take Jaden's situation, day by day, and we're hopeful and that things continue to move in the right direction. But you always have to prepare yourself for the eventuality of, both quarterbacks playing, and we'll continue to do that. And, Garrett really knows that there's some things that he's got to work on during the week. We're going to make sure that he is ready. There's some things we got to clean up, and he knows it. So I think we'll just be a lot more of a focused, working kind of situation for him, in that it's he's one snap away from getting in the game.
Coach Kelly will next meet with the media tomorrow on the SEC teleconference. We expect to get an update on Jaden's condition then. When we come back, we're going to talk about where the LSU Tigers go from here. Some goals off the table. What's left to play for? Stick around.
Sports Takeover will return after these messages. Now, back to Sports Takeover.
Being elite is hard. It's really hard. And if it's just the level of good, we're pretty close to being that. Look, we've lost 3 times to top 10 teams on the road, okay? That doesn't matter. If you want to be elite, you got to beat those teams on the road. And we beat a top 20 team in Missouri on the road. People can say, well, that's good. That's good. You lost to the teams you're supposed to lose to. You beat the teams you're supposed to win. We're not here for that. So to get to elite is really hard, and these guys are working towards that. It just takes some time.
Yeah, and I think last year really spoiled this fan base and the expectations on what to think this Tiger team can provide under Brian Kelly. Year one and make it to the SEC championship game. Everybody's going to want that from here on out, and the Tigers just aren't capable of doing that. We've talked about a historically bad defense, guys, but where does LSU go from here now that SEC championship game is off the radar?
I think it's interesting because for so many years we saw LSU lose the Bama game and struggle to get off the mat because all of your goals are off the table. With 2014, LSU lost at home to Alabama in overtime. They went up and played an Arkansas team that was on like a 3-year SEC losing streak and got annihilated because they couldn't get off the mat. So this is Brian Kelly's first time off an LSU loss. He's talked off an Alabama loss. He's talked so much about the culture he wants to build here. Saturday against Florida, you're a 2-touchdown home favorite. I don't care who's playing quarterback. You got to go beat a bad Florida team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Matt actually asked Coach Kelly, how do you move on from life post-Bama? Here's his answer.
If we want to be elite, we have to be consistent. We won 10 games last year. You need to win 10 again, and that's in front of you. So you have an opportunity to win 10 games again this season, and if you want to start closing the gap towards being elite, then back-to-back 10-win seasons starts to do that. So it's a challenge to our football team in terms of how do you want this program to continue to grow. It's on your shoulders, and you have an opportunity to continue to get better. Coaches need to get better, and players clearly need to get better. And so this is a great opportunity playing a really good opponent at home, and you've got a chance to move from being a good team to being a great team.
Shea, I'll start with you. So much of the theme yesterday was really about the tone and tenor of this program, not necessarily this team. I just wonder, in this day and age, can you build that culture when you're bringing in so many new pieces via the portal each year?
Well, everybody's going to face that challenge. Right. That's why he wants to go back to more high school recruiting and development and less relying on the portal. And I think that's what they'll do this year. They went double-digit players in the portal the past 2 years, the first 2 years. I expect that number to be cut in half. I could see him taking 5 or 6 portal players this year that really just fill need spots for you. So, yes, you'll get away from that. Here's the reality. I think that perspective is sort of a prerequisite when you want to discuss what realistic expectations are. This was a team that was coming off a first losing season since DiNardo in '99. They had 38 scholarship players. Yes, it's exactly what you said, Mike. When you win the West in year one with that, it's, oh, well, year two, here we come. That can't be reality. Vegas had them as a 9-win team. They're on pace for that. And as Brian Kelly said, that's important because it sets you up for 10 wins. Quiz of the day. A&M has had how many 10-win seasons in the past 20 years? One. Doing it in back-to-back seasons of your first 2 years as a head coach, that's moving up. And recruits see that, I'm telling you.
You talk about perspective, Matt. I wonder how much of this is Coach Brian Kelly also realizing that he is starting over. At Notre Dame, he had everything established. He had everybody on his timeline and on his rules and regulations, and now he is really literally having to build that back up from the beginning.
I think a lot of us are in the mentality that LSU went from 2019 to right now. And
yes.
You forget that in the middle you went 11-12 and your roster eroded and you had a coaching change. So ask yourself the question, are you better today as a program than you were the day Ed Ogeron was fired and Brian Kelly was hired? And the answer is unequivocally yes. It's not where anybody's expectation is of this program, but Brian Kelly's, look, I mean, he hit in the portal year one. He missed on a lot of guys year two. But a lot of that, as Shea said, was out of necessity. You had to rebuild your roster back through the portal. In time, they'll build it through the high school ranks and supplement with the portal, which I think this will be a pretty good indication this year of that.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the big reasons why I think these expectations are sky high. It's because of the success of Jaden Daniels. What would life be like without him? That's what we're going to chop up after the break.
Sports Takeover will return after these messages. Now, back to Sports Takeover.
I would consider him day-to-day. He's going through the injury protocol. He's made improvements, but this is a process that we'll just have to, see how it plays out from day to day.
Brian Kelly very careful with his words. Injury protocol, not concussion protocol, although we all do assume that is what Jaden Daniels is in. We'll find out how he will progress this week, hopefully as soon as Wednesday morning. We'll meet with Brian Kelly on Thursday and get the final injury report. Guys, it leads me to wonder, what would life be like without Jaden Daniels on this team? Let's just talk about this year's club. Obviously, you know, Vegas is going to say if he doesn't play against Florida that it might be a 4 to 5 point, you know, swing. I think the guy is good for 2 touchdowns a game at the minimum, and that's probably only with his feet. So let's play a little what if Tuesday, if you will, and just what is this team without Jaden Daniels, Shea?
They're without the best player in college football, who has the most yards in college football, who's in the top 5 in passing, is second in passing touchdowns, is number 2 in rushing yards by a quarterback. I mean, you want me to keep going? I mean, he's the best player in college football. Without him, you do not have the best player in college football.
Practically, all that's true, and practically you lose to Missouri, you lose to Arkansas, so you are already a 5-loss team right now, and I don't think Florida or Texas A&M are any layups given how bad your defense is. If you want to go back to last year,
go back to last year. He won him half the games.
I mean, LSU played a whole bunch of 50-50 games, and
he was the difference maker.
He won the 50-50 games for you against Arkansas. He won the 50-50 game for you against Alabama. I mean, it's just a dramatically different reality without that guy who accounted for 70% of your offense a year ago.
They are Mississippi State. That's the equivalent that I come up with. They're just a team that can't really do anything on offense, and they're not spectacular anywhere else on any side of the ball. I asked Coach Kelly, do the expectations change because Jaden has played so well for this team? Is he the thing that is catapulting everyone's idea of what this LSU football team is? He said he hadn't actually thought of that before.
Listen, my expectations are the same as everybody else's expectations. Our offense is ahead of our defense. I want our defense to catch up, certainly, right? Our offense is you know, one of the best, if not one of the best offense in the country. But we're not at the same level. We have to continue to build, and we have to continue to recruit. We have to continue to coach at the highest level, and that's just not the case yet. But we're going to continue to get there, and we're going to continue to make the progress. I was asked the question, you know, where do you feel your defense is? We're making progress defensively. It might not be at the level we all want to, but we have to then in the off season look at, all right, where are we in all phases? Kind of the question that Ed brought up is the bigger picture. We'll do a deeper dive at the end of the season on all those other things because we have to be able to catch up to where our offense is.
A lot of talk yesterday about coaching changes, coaching evaluations.
There's your answer.
Those kinds of things. And yes, Coach Brian Kelly is not one to sit around and let things happen around him. He's going to make things happen. Matt, did you have something?
Everyone's asking about Matt House's future. I'm never a yell, fire the coach type guy. I just don't know how you retain Matt House after this season.
Yeah, Alex Grinch gets blown out at USC in the middle of the season. LSU's not a middle of the season make a move thing.
They did with Ed Ogeron. And the reason generally you do something like that midseason is it gives you the cover to start openly discussing potential replacements instead of trying to do it in a sort of clandestine manner.
And they should have done it the year before and didn't, which put them on a short leash to say, as soon as you stumble, we're firing you.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about how LSU builds back. Shea already mentioned it once. It is recruiting and getting those high school players in your program developing at the pace that they all are expected to develop at. That's after the break.
Sports Takeover will return after these messages. Now, back to Sports Takeover.
We've just started recruiting, and we had a great recruiting class last year. We're on page to have another really good recruiting class. We have to build it through recruiting as well. So recruiting, retention, and developing the standards and the culture of a championship culture within your program. All of those things together, moving at one speed. All of them together.
All of them together moving forward. Guys, we've talked about the timeline. Shea, this is your wheelhouse. This is what LSU needs to do to build back for the long term, not the short term.
And then Kelly has said it all offseason. People don't listen. He said the same thing about the corners. He was like, I have no idea what I have at corner. I've never seen any of them play. He said this about recruiting, that he would have to do something he didn't want to do. Go to the portal heavy 2 years in a row. like Matt said, year one it worked. Year two you had some misses. Now it's going to be building back through the high school ranks. They have 26 commits right now. That number will go up to 27, 8, 29. You'll end up with 5, 6, 7 transfers, and you've now inverted that approach, the two sides of it. And I think that will continue to happen to where the portal only becomes something you do when you need a quarterback, when you need a corner or a D lineman, whatever it might be, who's got a little experience. It's not going to be, hey, we need starters and we need backups and we need some backups to them.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining us. Thank you for watching at home. LSU, Florida, Saturday night in Death Valley.